Welcome to Take Off Your Shoes. My name is Reverend Marie Duquette. I'm an ordained minister in the Lutheran tradition, and I believe that where my story, your story, and God's story meet, there is holy ground. The Holy Gospel according to Luke, the 15th chapter. Now all the tax collectors and sinners were coming near to listen to Jesus, and the Pharisees and the scribes were grumbling and saying, "This fellow welcomes sinners and eats with them." So he told them this parable. There was a man who had 2 sons. The younger of them said to his father, "Father, give me the share of the property that will belong to me." So he divided his property between them. A few days later, the younger son gathered all he had and traveled to a distant country, and there he squandered his property in dissolute living. When he had spent everything, a severe famine took place throughout that country, and he began to be in need. So he went and hired himself out to one of the citizens of that country who sent him to his fields to feed the pigs. He would gladly have filled himself with the pods that the pigs were eating, and no one gave him anything. But when he came to himself, he said, "How many of my father's hired hands have bread enough and to spare, but here I am dying of hunger. I will get up and go to my father, and I will say to him, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Treat me like one of your hired hands.' So he set off and went to his father. But while he was still far off, his father saw him and was filled with compassion. He ran and put his arms around him and kissed him. Then the son said to him, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son.' But the father said to his slaves, 'Quickly, bring out a robe, the best one, and put it on him. Put a ring on his finger, sandals on his feet, and get the fatted calf and kill it, and let us eat and celebrate. For this son of mine was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found.' And they began to celebrate. Now his elder son was in the field, and when he came and approached the house, he heard music and dancing. He called one of the slaves and asked what was going on. He replied, 'Your brother has come, and your father has killed the fatted calf, because he got him back safe and sound.' Then he became angry and refused to go in. His father came out and began to plead with him, but he answered his father, 'Listen, for all these years I have been working like a slave for you, and I have never disobeyed your command. Yet you have never given me even a young goat so that I might celebrate with my friends. But when this son of yours came back, who has devoured your property with prostitutes, you killed the fatted calf for him.' Then the father said to him, 'Son, you are always with me, and all that is mine is yours. But we had to celebrate and rejoice, because this brother of yours was dead and has come to life. He was lost and has been found.'" The Gospel of the Lord. Many a child has written home a letter from camp because they were homesick. As we were unpacking boxes in this new place we are trying to call home now, Deb ran across a letter she had sent home to her mom and dad. She wrote the date at the top. It says, "Written August 1, 1971 in night." She wrote, "Dear Mom and Dad, me and Nancy are having a little homesick. I want to come home. I am not having too much fun. I will be glad to be on Friday. We had a cookout on Tuesday. That is all I have to say. Love, Debbie." We have a little homesick, which sounds somewhat adorable and sweet from the voice of a 9-year-old learning to write. But all of us know what that is. I'm going to make a leap of faith and say everybody in this sanctuary at one point in life has had a little homesick. Maybe it was a time when you couldn't get home. You wouldn't go home. The place you called home was no more. I want to go home. I want to go home. I've been feeling it since I got here. Michigan, where we came from, is where I was born and raised, in Detroit, and then in Farmington, and then in Novi, and then in Brighton, and then in Heartland before I moved to Columbus, and then moved to Asheville, where I moved to Florida and came back to Michigan, to Ann Arbor, and now find myself here in central New York. So you can imagine it has very little to do with you in this wonderful place and everything to do with me and thinking, where do I even live? Where is my home, right? Admittedly, in the depths of our winter when Deb was in Florida helping her mom and everything here was foreign to me, I wanted to go home to where things were familiar. And when we talked on the phone late at night and I told her the snow was so high it was blocking the door to get out of the house and Nala fell into it such that I could not even see her nose, Deb wanted to come home too, except she called here home. Maybe the band Edward Sharpe and the Magnetic Zeros coined this phrase well. They sing, home is wherever I'm with you. Home is wherever I'm with you. We tried to figure it out, talking to one another about where our home was. Michigan, New Jersey, Ohio, Florida. When you've moved often, it's harder to decide where home is for you. In today's gospel, we are reminded that home is that place where no matter the condition you are in when you arrive, your guilt, your shame, your regret, your absence, your state of mind, someone there welcomes you with open arms. Someone there feeds you. Someone there listens to you, even in the night. You've likely spent the night there too. This, too, is home. But going home can be a big mixed bag, right? The prodigal son's best hope is that his father will treat him as a servant. The prodigal son knows that his brother will likely not greet him warmly. He knows that his failures will be on display as he walks up the road. Perhaps he keeps his head down. He knows word will get around. Maybe he wonders the closer he gets, can I go home again? Was this the best plan? Returning to the place where the people you love are no more, the stores and trees and houses of friends are no more, gives you a sense that you can't go home again. And it's a sense of loss that is hard to articulate and hard to deny. Home is a treasure, a place where we have soft landings. People know how you take your coffee and the name of your dog. We feel safe there. So today's gospel invites us each to consider the question, where are you in this story? The prodigal son? You need not raise your hand for that. His brother, Chip, on the shoulder? Come on, Chip on the shoulder is his brother, you guys. Come on now. The neighbors taking in the indignity of the scene and texting one another? The father? When you think of the person you would welcome home in any condition, at any time, you realize that home is not necessarily a place so much as it is the people who meet you when you get there. The people who open the circle and let you in. The people who let you into a circle of those who have known each other for a lifetime. Let you into a warm house, a sanctuary, but also into a circle of care and into their lives. The reason I am a Lutheran pastor is because When I had a 2-year-old who had some health issues and his father was traveling the globe, I decided I needed to find my way back into church because I needed a community of people who could help me do this. I read the announcements of churches in the local paper and picked a Lutheran one. I was raised Catholic. I stumbled into this little Lutheran church while they were having communion at an evening service, and they were in a big circle in front of the sanctuary as they took communion. And when they saw me coming in the door with no words, they just opened the circle and waved me in. Home is a place where they open the circle and wave you in. For most of you, many of you anyway, this is your home church. It's hard to find a new church. We hear about churches closing all the time. Part of us feels downright afraid. This is our home church. We have too many memories here. We have held one another here. We have cried here. We got married here. Our children were baptized here. They went to confirmation here. Back in the day when lots of children went to confirmation, we huddled here after the planes hit the buildings in New York. We have prayed here, lit candles here, sung Silent Night together. This is your home church. I read a story this week about a man who always jogs in the base of the lower loop in Central Park. I suppose we're using running now, not jogging. He was running there. And he sees a man there that he sees pretty often. And by this man that he sees outward appearance, it's clear he's probably unhoused, probably slept in that park last night and the night before, probably has mental health issues that are going unattended to. And this man who we think lives in Central Park on a bench has a whistle around his neck. The runner runs past him day after day, and he is always there, yelling and jumping and making quite a spectacle. At first, it makes the runner uncomfortable. And then one morning he thinks, I wonder if he wears a whistle because he was or is a coach. I wonder if it's part of who he is. So when he saw the man with the whistle on his run that morning, he yelled to him, "Hey, coach!" And the man's countenance completely changed, and it softened. Someone had recognized who he was. Someone knew him now. He cheered for the runner. He blew his whistle loudly. He yelled, "That's my boy!" Others followed suit. Other runners who had witnessed the scene started greeting the man in the same way. "Hey, coach!" And he would yell and cheer for them. "Go, go, go!" And now they were connected. He cheers them on, every one. He makes up nicknames for some as they return to run the loop once again. Home is where people call you by the name you love. Sometimes it's where people call you by the name you choose. Maybe it's your family name. For many of us, it's a nickname that we may or may not share with the rest of the world. When I was in Paris, I was in Paris right at the same time that Russia invaded Ukraine. And I was taking a train from the south of France back to the city. And there were people, families with very young children on this train with me. They all looked exhausted. They all looked sad. And they were all right down to the toddlers carrying backpacks that were overstuffed. Some of the children carried blankets in their arms. When they got off the train with me, between the trains on the platform, there were people wearing white shirts with a big red cross on them and holding the flag of Ukraine. They were refugees. These people who were holding the flags and wearing the shirts with the red crosses on them spoke their language. gathered them in. It made me realize up close and personal how vital these agencies that we support are. I thought about how terrifying it would be to not know where your home is permanently because the one you knew is gone. In the prodigal son, we know that the Father represents God, filled with abundant grace, grace we cannot always fathom, welcoming the son who has squandered his inheritance that he asked for early. Sometimes we imagine ourselves being this magnanimous, forgiving, welcoming. But the truth is, we are not God. And there are times when welcoming a loved one back into our home is not something we are able to do, at least not long term. And by God's grace, God understands that too. Because it's not a character in this parable that the Father is welcoming. It's me, and it's you. We are the ones the Father is welcoming home. God's justice is that we lead with love. And when we focus on the love between us, when we fan the flames of that love to children who are homesick, those with mental health issues crying out in a part for belonging, those whose homes have been destroyed by war, flood, famine, those who have no place else to go, when we can lead into those situations with love and imagine the fear of those who look like you and I, wondering if they can go to a new place and there find a new home, then it's easier to take the ending of this story for the amazing, healing grace that it is. The Father runs to them. Thank you for listening to Take Off Your Shoes. Let me send you out now with this blessing. May God give you the grace never to sell yourself short, grace to risk something big for something good, and grace to remember the world is now too dangerous for anything but the truth and too small for anything but love.
If you're still listening, she held your attention. Give her a thumbs up and subscribe. Watch the video on her YouTube channel. Search on YouTube for Take Off Your Shoes with Marie Duquette, Duquette.